So the Green Science Policy Institute's been around about 15 years, and during that time, we have used science to bring together decision makers in business, in government, NGOs, academia. We've communicated the science, and we have actually been able to affect more change than I would have ever dreamed possible. And I suddenly realized that we really want to share this strategy with as many people as possible. So this is my very first talk. You've probably all heard my talks, or many of you, and you may have seen some of these slides, and many of you are co-authors on the papers I'm going to be talking about. But I've tried to put all this together for the very first time in what is our strategy. And just to repeat, we write scientific papers with many of you as co-authors. We bring together decision makers, then we communicate, and that has led to governmental policy change and also changes in business purchasing by big purchasers, retailers, and manufacturers. The purchaser can control what's in products, and so that can be a faster way to affect change than government. So this all started for me back in the 70s when I wrote a paper, and I'm going to just put this up because the subtitle says a lot about what we do. The main flame retardant in children's pajamas is a mutagen, should not be used, and that was about tris in kids' pajamas. And most scientific papers, end up recommending further study, but we made a very strong recommendation. And in those days, 3 months later, tris was removed from children's pajamas. So that, for me, is a model of what a scientific paper with a very focused statement. It takes a little longer now, but it can really affect change. Then the same tris that we removed from children's pajamas turned out back in baby products a number of years later. And this paper is interesting. Identification of flame retardants in foam from baby products. We found 90% of the products we tested had flame retardants up to 13% by weight in a baby changing mat. And one interesting point is when we submit this paper, it was turned down for not being novel enough. I don't know if any of you have ever had that experience with one of your papers, but we persevered and it got published, and it was the #1 paper of the year in 2011 because it was a subject that people were interested in, and it had a lot of impact. Then we were trying to get the word out about flame retardants. The chemical industry kept claiming they weren't harmful. So with 200 scientists, we wrote the San Antonio Statement on brominated and chlorinated flame retardants, and did a lot of communication about it. And then we worked with industry. We had an EPA grant to work with trade associations to educate them about the harm and lack of benefit of flame retardants in furniture. And our first meeting was with the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association. And after they heard all the science about the harm and lack of benefit of flame retardants, they published this position paper supporting eliminating flame retardants. And we actually got the support of all the furniture, foam, fabric, children's products, all the groups working on using flame retardants, and with the help of industry, a standard in California that was followed across the US and Canada was changed. So flame retardants are no longer in furniture. And that was our first example. With PFAS, we have to have a mountain slide. In 2013, I went trekking in Nepal with Anna Carmen, who's a scientist in Sweden who studies PFAS, and I was reading this great book, Stain Resistant, Nonstick, Waterproof, and Lethal. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was all the story of the cows in West Virginia and the harm of PFAS. And I came back and I Googled this, and there was virtually no media coverage. A lot of scientists were working on it, but it wasn't being covered in the media. So we started a call with scientists once a month to talk about the science and policy of PFAS. We've been having those calls monthly since 2013, and you're all invited to join if you're interested, and scientists. And the scientists on that call wrote the MADRID statement on highly fluorinated chemicals, calling for international community to limit the production of use of PFAS and develop safer alternatives. And then we did a lot of publicity around that, a lot of communication that went on and started contributing to change. I wrote a lead article, an op-ed for Science mostly about PFAS and the need for change. And then with the scientists on our call, we wrote several papers. One of the important ones was linking areas with high levels of PFAS in drinking water to the sources. And we started with others talking to people on the Hill about the need to stop using PFAS in firefighting foam. And indeed, the 2020 US military budget has a whole number of really good provisions around PFAS, USGS, sampling water throughout the country, the prohibition of the whole class of PFAS in AFFF firefighting foams, and prohibiting fluorinated packaging in meals ready to eat. And I think all the science that was done around PFAS and bringing it to the attention of the decision makers on both sides of the aisle in the House and Senate led to this. In terms of products, which are a big source of contamination, again, scientists from our call, some of you are here today, wrote a paper finding fluorinated compounds in about 40% of fast food packaging tested. Another effort we made was to educate the carpet industry. Carpeting was one of the greatest sources of PFAS contamination for children. And the carpet industry came from Dalton, Georgia to Berkeley, met with us, and again, a number of people on this call who are on this meeting. And when they had thought they'd gone from C8 to C6 and solved the PFAS problem, and when they learned that they really hadn't, they made a commitment to, with a little pressure, and also the Department of Toxic Substances here in California was in the process of listing carpets with any member of the class of PFAS as chemicals of concern. Anyway, when this meeting did contribute to the carpet industry deciding to eliminate PFAS from all carpets in the US, and they actually did by January 1st of this year. And we knew it had happened when Home Depot announced they weren't going to be selling rugs and carpets containing any PFAS. So those are some examples of how science can be translated. And I just want to quickly, I think I'm over very quickly, say something about our communication strategy, and I'm happy to share this more later. But this is the detail, but select research topics to support policy in the public interest. To control the publication date, most people don't realize you can control the publication date, pick one in the future, and use that time to educate journalists, have a good press release, and use your paper to affect change. So I hope this will give an example of what you can do to have your research have more impact. So again, science plus stakeholders plus good communication equals change. And we hope a healthier future with less PFAS and less flame retardants and other chemicals of concern.